Hi everyone. We're going to talk about connective tissue in this segment. So as you may notice, these are 3 examples of connective tissue. And you might notice that typically connective tissue is not something you would see on the outside surface of your body unless something's gone wrong. So this picture of the shoulder joint is an MRI. So if you actually see the shoulder, like a bone poking out of the skin, you would say to yourself, something's definitely wrong. Let's see, I have my one yellow for some reason. Okay. So same thing with blood. Blood is a connective tissue. Oh, I am still in yellow. And blood is a connective tissue that normally is inside the body, of course, and not outside. In this case, who knows what happened to this poor kid, but he ended up with blood on the outside of his body. And then this here is adipose, or fat cells. And so adipose tissue is also connective tissue. Again, we see it on the outside of the body, but only underneath the epidermis. All right, so in general, what is connective tissue? They're really abundant, and they're all over the body. So they're also the most heterogeneous of tissue groups. So hetero means what? It's the opposite of homogeneous. Homogeneous means the same. So heterogeneous means different. There's like a wide variety of connective tissue. So if you think of blood versus bone, they seem like 2 totally different tissues, but they are both connective tissue. So connective tissues bind tissues together. So you can think about 2 bones being held together by a ligament, and the ligament is made out of a type of connective tissue. Connective tissue supports and strengthens tissue. So you can think about the dermis of the skin. The type of connective tissue in the dermis really makes your dermis quite tough. Protect and insulate internal organs. So you can think about bone protecting your internal organs, like your ribs and sternum protect your lungs. And also insulate, and that would be adipose tissue. Adipose tissue, or fat tissue, kind of wraps around or covers many organs like the kidneys and assists in holding them in place. Compartmentalize and transport, so compartmentalize like a bone melts to form different cavities. Transport like the blood and the lymph for connective tissue. And also connective tissue serves as energy reserves, like fat is a long-term energy reserve. And also immune responses, which is part of the job of the lymph and also the blood. So even though they're totally varied, there are some common themes. All connective tissue has sparse cells, and the cells are surrounded by an extracellular matrix. So these 2 things here are the trademark of connective tissue. Think about how that's different from epithelial tissue. Epithelial tissue is cells packed in. Think of the, picture of the epidermis of the skin. Just tons and tons of cells, not very much in between them. Well, connective tissue is a little bit different. So you have those 2 things, sparse cells, extracellular matrix. And what is extracellular matrix? Is it cells? No, it's extracellular. That means it's outside of a cell. It does not include cells. So it's non-cellular material that's around and between the cells. So extracellular matrix consists of protein fibers and ground substance. So you can picture what fibers are, and we'll talk a little bit about fibers in a few slides. But ground substance is the part that basically gives connective tissue its physical qualities, like is it liquid or is it bone or is it jelly-like. So that's the job of the ground substance, or that's the result of the ground substance. So, as we mentioned, unlike epithelia, connective tissues do not occur on free surfaces. They shouldn't, or else something has gone wrong. And unlike epithelium, connective tissue is highly vascular. Except for cartilage and tendons, the rest of connective tissue will bleed if you cut it. And also that means it gets a good blood supply, and that brings oxygen and nutrients to connective tissues. So again, except for cartilage, connective tissue, like epithelium, has a nerve supply. So if you puncture the dermis, you're certainly going to feel it. So what are the two main components of connective tissue? 1, cells. 2 is extracellular matrix. Okay. So, where does ground substance fit in again? Ground substance is part of the extracellular matrix, and it gives connective tissue certain qualities, such as whether it's liquid or solid or jelly-like. So that's what ground substance is. Alright, so now we're going to talk about different cells you would find in connective tissue, and after that we'll talk about fibers associated with connective tissue. So, whenever you see the word blast, you are going to know that we are talking about a young, immature cell. So, that also means that that cell can make something. So, fibroblast, chondroblast, osteoblast, young immature cells making, in the case of osteo, making bone, chondro, making cartilage, fibro, making fibers. Mature cells end in cyte, like osteocyte, chondrocyte. Those are two examples. And then most mature cells cannot do cell division as rapidly, if not at all. So mostly they're just involved in maintaining the matrix. So you can see, just if you think of some kids who are young, they want to have a blast. That's just how young people are. Cyte is a more mature person who wants to stay home and maintain the home site. So blast is young, cyte is mature. Okay, so fibroblasts are really important because they need to make all the fibers for the connective tissue. So you have 3 different types of fibers that we'll be talking about shortly, but fibroblasts secrete the fibers. So in addition to the fibers, they also secrete a ground substance, which varies from one connective tissue from another, like we mentioned. So fibroblasts secrete fibers and then ground substance. Macrophage, phage means eat. So big eaters. They wander around and they eat cellular undesirables, meaning invading pathogens or cellular waste that needs to be disposed of. Macrophages can do that. So some macrophages wander around the body, and some are fixed, like you have special fixed macrophages in your liver, and they just stay right there. Plasma cells secrete antibodies, and that's important for immunity, to keep your cells protected. Mast cells are involved in allergic response and inflammatory response in general. They produce histamine. So when you take an antihistamine, it's because you're combating the product of your mast cells. Adipocytes are fat cells. They store energy for us, White blood cells are important for our immunity. They help to fight off infection. So stop and think, pause here. What are two cells you might find in the extracellular matrix? One would be a fibroblast. It's one of the most common cells in the extracellular matrix. And the second type could be anything. White blood cells, plasma cells, macrophages, all of those would also be in connective tissue in the extracellular matrix. Okay, so I'm going to let you read about ground substance a little bit more on your own. You might find it interesting because you might have heard of people who take glucosamine with chondroitin, and this is why. Chondroitin sulfate is an important component of many different ground substances, so read about that. But what I want to talk about are the three types of fibers and how to keep them straight. So, when you see the word collagen, you are going to think strong. So, collagen fibers are made of the protein collagen. And the protein collagen means that is a strong tissue in the body. So collagen fibers are tough and resist stretching, but they allow for some flexibility. So reach down right now and grab the back of your ankle, that cord that connects your heel bone with your calf muscle. Feel it. Feel how strong it is. That is made out of collagen fibers. It's a tendon, so collagen fibers are important for tendons, ligaments, bone, and cartilage whenever strength is needed. Elastic fibers, you can just imagine, just like their name would indicate, allow stretching to occur along with strength. Take a deep breath, inhale, and exhale. Your lungs just changed size, and elastic fibers allowed that to happen. When you see the word reticular, such as reticular fibers, you're going to think network. So reticular fibers are made out of collagen and glycoprotein, so they're strong, and they create supporting networks around different, fat cells or nerve fibers, muscle fibers, and they also create sort of the framework for certain organs like the liver and lymph nodes. So reticular fibers are important for building supportive networks. Okay, and this is just a reminder, the main protein of connective tissue is collagen, and it's a key protein in our body. Okay, and here's a picture. You have some different cells and some different fibers. This is not any particular connective tissue. You can also see the blood supply here. You can see the fat tissue over here, the adipose cells, as well as various other cells. So stop and think. What are the three types of connective tissue fibers? So make sure you stop and give this some thought. They are collagen fibers, reticular fibers, and elastic fibers. Which one is the toughest? Collagen fibers. Please feel free to ask if you have any questions.